Hello and welcome back to the Safe Psychology YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Umesh Joshi and thank you so much for watching. So in today's video we're going to be talking about Britney Spears. We're going to be thinking about Britney Spears, what she's been through, what's going on in the media at the moment and what we can learn from her experiences. Lots of people say that the conservatorship she was under was abusive, and I think it's really important that we can think about what we can learn from that experience in terms of surviving abuse and what to do after abuse and how you can take care of yourself after you've been in a relationship or a dynamic that has been or felt abusive. But first, let's start with an introduction. Not that she needs one, I think most of us know who she is, but if you don't, just in case, here we go. So Britney Spears is an American singer, often referred to as the Princess of Pop. She's credited with influencing the revival of teen pop during the late 1990s and early 2000s. Spears has sold over 150 million records worldwide, making her one of the world's best-selling music artists. She has earned numerous awards and accolades, including a Grammy Award, Guinness World Records, MTV Music Video Awards, Billboard Music Awards, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and a Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award. On February 1st, 2008, Britney was involuntarily placed under a conservatorship by Judge Reva Goetz and her father, James or Jamie Spears, and attorney Andrew Wallet as conservators. The conservatorship lasted until November 2021. So what was the reason for the conservatorship? So in 2008, after a series of public displays of disordered behaviour, peddled by inordinate media coverage, raised concerns about her mental welfare, Britney Spears would be placed in a conservatorship under the rule of her father. Becoming a conservatee, Britney Spears lost the right to handle all her personal, financial and estate affairs. Under the conservatorship, Britney lost access to her money, her platforms and properties. The management of her resources was assigned to her father. Now there's been lots of different journal articles published in the legal journals about Britney Spears and conservatorship laws and reviewing what happened and what we can do differently. And one of the things I found in those journals is that she fell prey to financial exploitation, emotional abuse and medical abuse, and that these were not standalone acts and instead all constitute to what Britney Spears suffered, which is defined as conservatorship abuse. So normally when someone goes through a conservatorship, that's what happens. They're deemed mentally incapable to look after their assets, and then another person, a lawyer, a family member, looks after everything that the court considers the person unable to look after themselves. And so again, more of the research I looked at explained that due to systemic lack of oversight and accountability, conservatorships are fraught with abuse. This abuse can manifest in many different ways, including financial, physical, exploitation, and in worst case scenarios, death. And so in response to what Britney was going through, there were many of her fans that were really worried about her well-being, her safety. There were clues about how Britney was getting on in her conservatorship. And people have had lots of different opinions on the conservatorship. Some people have said that she needs it and she absolutely needed the conservatorship. Other people are saying, no, she doesn't need it, let her be free. And some people are saying somewhere in the middle. And in light of recent media events, people are again conflicted. Should the conservatorship have ended, or should there be something in place to support Britney, but maybe something less constrictive as a conservatorship, or should she just be completely left alone to do as she pleases? So let's think a bit more about the Free Britney movement, and then we'll start looking into the 3 things you can do after experiencing abuse to look after yourself. So the Free Britney movement first arose over a decade ago when a group of fans grew increasingly concerned about Spears' legal guardianship contract. From 2008 to 2021, Spears' financial and bodily autonomy were controlled by her father. A lot of people claim that Britney was going through financial abuse during the conservatorship and that everyone in control of her life and her finances was making millions from the work that she was doing. Based on everything we've seen in the media recently, people are quite conflicted in terms of what was right and what was wrong. And they look at how Britney responds on social media and how she's responding now in terms of her day-to-day life. and some of her Instagram posts, which, you know, aren't really coherent and don't really make a lot of sense or are quite jumbled, are saying, you know, no, she absolutely needed the conservatorship. Obviously, I can't comment on what I think is the right thing for Britney because I don't know Britney. I'm not a part of her medical team or her legal team, and I don't want to be, but I think it's important that we're able to look at this objectively and think, you know, if we've been through an abusive relationship or multiple abusive relationships and situations, what can we learn from that? What can we learn from this experience? How can we start over after abuse? Now, I'm going to refer to a website called Women's Aid, but just because it's Women's Aid, that doesn't mean this information isn't applicable to men or anyone else who experiences or has gone through abuse. All of a sudden, the reality of not being in that situation can leave some people feeling grief or overwhelmed. They can sometimes miss the person they were in a relationship or relationships with before. They can feel really overwhelmed at being back in control of their life again. And it can be a lot for people to shift from being in an abusive relationship to all of a sudden having all the freedom. If you've not had the freedom over your finances and your decisions for a long period of time, that can be really emotionally taxing. Think about it. Before Britney or, you know, anyone in an abusive or controlling relationship made decisions, they would think about what they would want to do. But then before doing the thing, like most people would, they think about something, they might weigh up the pros and cons, then they do it. Whereas for her, she'll think about it, she might weigh up the pros and cons, then she'll also have to think about how her conservators will react, and actually what would they do and what will they say. And then after that, they then decide whether or not she can do the thing that she wants to do. And I think that that's a lot of pressure that leads someone to thinking a lot more about what they need to do, how they need to present something, how they can persuade people or the people who are in control of them to allow them to live the life that they want to live and do the things that they want to do. And so for that to then be taken away, it can take time. It can take time for people to recover from that. Sometimes people are left with symptoms of PTSD and complex PTSD, which I've done another video on if you're interested in learning more about that. And it's normal to experience a sense of anticlimax. It's normal for people to feel like really like elated or, you know, excited, but it's also really normal for people to be like, okay, well, I've left now, and now what? Like, I'm just here. What do I even do next? I'm not used to this. And so in terms of the 3 things you can do to look after yourself, one of those things is thinking about practical ways to look after yourself. So take time and space for yourself every day and do something that you like, whether it's something you're good at to help rebuild your confidence, whether it's learning a new skill or trying to figure out who you are now and doing the things that maybe you wouldn't have done before or couldn't have done before. Learning a new skill like yoga or meditation can be really helpful to settle the nervous system and help us to feel a bit more calmer and a bit more in control, especially if we feel anxious or on edge regularly. I think creative activities can also be a really positive outlet because it allows you to channel some of that anxiety or that frustration or the grief or whatever you're experiencing after that situation into something healthy, as a reasonable outlet to be able to look after yourself, as a healthy outlet to be able to look after yourself. It's important to eat well as well. So recent research has shown us that there's a direct link between our stomach and our brain, and what we put in our stomach and what we choose to eat can directly impact our mental health. So if we're eating well and we're eating good food, that can improve our anxiety, whereas if we're not eating well, that can actually increase, for example, our anxiety or our low mood. Regaining confidence. So if you've lived with someone who's always putting you down or criticizing you or controlling you, it can feel really difficult to get out of that mindset or get out of that mind frame. And actually, I think it's really important to get to a place where you can start doing things for you again. So for example, managing your money again can be really difficult. It can feel really overwhelming if you've not done it before, if you've not done it for a really long time. So are there resources out there in your local area that can support you? Are there professionals that you think you might be able to trust who could help you with those decisions around managing your money? It's also important to get back in touch with yourself in different ways and think about, you know, who you are outside of what the abuser has said to you. So you might have been living with someone who's putting you down or criticizing you, and sometimes some people can end up internalizing that. That means they take that voice inside themselves and almost start saying those things to themselves because they believe them, and it's become normal for such a long period of their life. And I think it's really important that we can start recognizing those thoughts, recognizing if or when we're doing that to ourselves, and start challenging that voice. You know, talking to that voice with kindness and compassion and changing the narrative so it aligns more closely with how you want to think about yourself in your life. And the final thing is learning to move on. It's not easy after being in an abusive relationship or abusive relationships to be able to move on from the situation. But it's important to be able to take the time that you need to be able to do that. So doing the practical things and focusing on regaining your confidence are two things that you can do to support with that. I think in light of all of that, you can also now start thinking about how you want to make your decisions. What is it that you want to choose for yourself and for your life? Things that maybe the perpetrators wouldn't have allowed you to do. Is talking to someone going to help you? Accessing therapy to manage any symptoms of anxiety or trauma or PTSD that you're experiencing? And thinking about what you can do now, how you can create a life moving forward that aligns more closely with who you are without the control of somebody else looking over you. And think outside the box. Do you want to go back into education? Do you want to go into work or a different job? How do you want your life to look different now that you're not in the situation that you were in before? I'm going to leave any relevant resources and references in the description below. I hope you found this video helpful. If you're interested in pop culture and psychology and mental health and what we can take from things happening in the media at the moment, subscribe to this channel, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. In the meantime, take care and see you soon.